Hi everyone, welcome to Type Talks. Today I'm here with Dario Nardi, and we're going to talk about how to use MBTI to stay Jung for the rest of your life. And so
Mm.
it's kind of like a play on words because a lot of Carl Jung's concepts really touch upon techniques to help you not age and keep your eternal youth. And so it all relates to this retreat that Dario Nardi and I are going to be a part of. It's called Young for Life. In this event, we go through some of the topics that Carl Jung mentioned in his writings, which is active imagination, shamanism, yoga, and more. And so, Dario, would you like to go a little bit more into this topic?
Yeah. So besides being a cute play on words in the part about staying young, one is that many of Jung's ideas were strongly influenced by yoga, and I think most people associate yoga with staying young and flexible and open. But more than that, is he saw every person, every client that came in as suffering from one-sidedness in some way. That was what was underlying their in a broad sense neurotic condition. So what was the way to work with that? And active imagination was the main way that he encouraged that. And active imagination can take different forms, but it really is about allowing stuff from the shadow, from the unconscious material to come up and to become integrated into our lives. And what happens when we don't do that? When we just sort of push things down and keep them there, as the personality and the person, yeah, they stay one-sided, and then they sort of just like crystallize and shrivel up, and they get old before their time. And maybe they decide at age 30 they're going to be a certain way, and they just remain that way for the rest of their life. And so what was the point of what they were doing all afterward? In contrast, if a person is working with their unconscious and allowing this material to come out, there's going to be this element of growth and discovery. It's like a growth mindset versus a closed mindset, this or fixed mindset. This growth mindset allows us to stay young and allows us to stay young. And regardless, even if we're like 60, 70, 80, I've met even people in their 90s who have this youthful energy to them. So a big part of this workshop, which you and I have, I held this a year ago, and you and some other folks were there, is to bring this out again and really bring to people the techniques and the practices, which I think work really, really well to help us go into that growth mindset and maintain and bring out that youthful energy. That we all have the potential to reinvent ourselves a little bit or just kickstart ourselves again.
Yeah, I think it's especially relevant in today's society where I think a lot of people are very much in this realm where they double down on a certain way of living because of the way that our culture reinforces. So, active imagination is almost a way to engage the repressed parts of your psyche or the parts that you use less and to bring them forward into being more incorporated in your conscious usage. So, you're not living one sided because Carl Jung, he talks about overusing this one-sidedness and it causing a lot of problems, these reoccurring themes in your life that you suffer from until you learn to find the transcendent function or find a way to transcend that.
Yeah, and that's all that whole process he called alchemy. There is this other side too that he said that when the material in the unconscious is not expressed or integrated, or it's even starting to come out, but it's not integrated, that we project that material into the social and political sphere, emotions, ideas, whatever it is. And so that's why some of the techniques that we use, and some of them like the social, the sort of group relations activities that we're going to do. I've been doing that since 1997, like hundreds of groups, and it's really amazing, transformative to sort of work with the persona, work with the shadow, understand what it is that we're projecting, withdraw those projections. The same in the human connection practice, working one-on-one in pairs, even for just 10 minutes. It's amazing that it's so simple. And yet every time it demands or it asks us, it invites us to step into the space with the other person and be authentic. with who we are, and to see others, to experience others as they are. So it really is. It's taking the 6-day workshop that we did a year ago and putting all the like the best material of that in 3 days for people to
Mm.
like really go away with this set of experiences and relationships and practices that will keep them young. Will keep them young.
Yes, precisely so. So, speaking of the workshop, it's going to be held in New York and Chicago. To give audience members a taste of how this event is like, I could explain how my personal experience was going through this with you.
Mm.
Yeah. So I found that the human connection exercises you do are very unique in that you use acting exercises that help create intense in the moment presence between people. So the acting teacher that you learned the technique from, she almost defines intimacy as being into time with another person. And so you learn the technique of how it's like to connect truly. And I think that that's a part of being or staying young because our connections actually elongate our life. I think there's studies shown on how if you're lonely, it's equivalent to smoking 2 packs of cigarette a day or something along the lines of that. The overall takeaway is that there are health consequences to not having strong social connections. During your workshop, it actually inspired me to learn these heartfelt acting techniques and how to apply them in my everyday life. So I've still been using what you've taught us last year.
Mm.
And it's so impactful to fully know how it's like to be in the present with someone. Like Eckhart Tolle, he has a whole brand off of being present. And that's really the best that life has to offer. It's a series of moments that fade into each other. So it's being with another person. Esther Perel, she even calls intimacy as into me you see. And that's
Mm.
really just the practice of being with another person truly. And I think I learned the foundation to this in a very clear way in our workshop. Those are some of my takeaways. And so I feel like after that, I've been able to be more present with my relationships. So,
Mm. Mhm. Yeah, yeah. That's for those who are curious about the specifics. It's first of all, it's not particularly or any easier for some types and others. Feeling types don't necessarily find this practice that easy. If you're introvert and thinking preferences, you too can do this. Is just working in pairs and discovering more of yourself through the other person. And it's based on the Meisner school of acting. It's a Meisner technique called repeat, with a little bit of variation in it for what we're doing. And that's not the first thing we're doing, but it's something that we're going to do a little bit early-ish. And it was the one activity when we did the 6 days that everybody said they wanted to do it again before we ended the week, because it really is very special. But we will actually be opening up with some yoga and qigong, and specifically that's Kundalini yoga. And even if you've never taken yoga, that's absolutely fine. I think there was a couple of people in the class who had never done yoga before, so there's just we'll do like a warm up, and then we're going to do yoga that is like sets with some qigong that are about experiencing the four sort of the subtypes or the four sides of yourself, to see and experience firsthand energetically how you can be more dominant, creative, harmonizing, or normalizing. So if you're an INFP and you feel like, oh gosh, that normalizing part is so difficult for me, like or the dominant side of yourself, like this is a chance to discover that energetically through the body and through movement, and of course discussion as well with all of these. And so how was your experience with the yoga sets?
I really enjoyed the yoga sets. When I did yoga with you, I realized that you actually do more of like the authentic yoga from like learning it from the place where it was originated. Because I actually did yoga a few weeks ago with someone who understands like the roots in India or in certain other places. And I'm like, oh, this is like the kind that Dario did, because you actually do the yoga that's not like it's not westernized yoga. You actually do yoga as in learning it from the traditional teachers kind of yoga. And yeah, I found it fun. I learned how inflexible I was, but you also challenged us in light ways, and it helped a lot with me setting fitness goals. What I liked about the yoga was how much it grounded me, and I realized that doing it in a group setting made me appreciate the technique and how it relates to your subtypes. It allows you to experience the subtypes. And so I got a lot out of it. And to just add on to the Meisner technique you were talking about, Dario actually teaches a certain kind of heartfelt Meisner technique. So you actually don't really learn it in a traditional Meisner school. It's like the expansion pack of Meisner for creating better relationships. So,
Mm,
yeah.
yeah, very, very nicely said. Yeah, and I have to thank Iris Klein, who was the is not even, I didn't even take acting classes so much as acting prep, but is that ability to remain like emotionally flexible and interpersonally flexible. And I remember someone coming in I knew who had ENFJ preferences, and she thought, oh, well, this will be right up my alley. Like, this will be so easy for my type. And then she discovered it wasn't easy at all, because her extroverted feeling was so much about showing up how she was supposed to, or how she thought she was supposed to, as opposed to showing up as her like actual self in that moment. And the approach that Iris uses really allows people to connect in like a very nice heart to heart kind of way. It isn't about being confrontational or anything like that. It's simply addressing what comes up, and being in creating a space and having a lovely space to be able to address that. And it's a very simple 10-minute practice, and yet so much happens in that time.
Yeah. It kind of taught me how much I'm in the future and not in the present. So I actually still go to Iris Klein to learn the technique that you taught us last year. And you also taught us some breath work too during
Yes.
our yoga or along the lines of that.
Yeah. So the breath work was a nice bridge between the sort of yoga qigong sets, and then the active imagination, shamanic drum journeys. And specifically, we did what's sometimes called shamanic breath work, which is a 20-minute, very short 20 minutes. Like, it's not that long, and you lie down and you breathe a certain way, like twice in into the lower and upper diaphragm, and then breathing out. And I'm sort of there to help you to keep breathing, doing that in that way. And after a couple minutes, your brain is like, oh my God, what are you doing? Because we're starting to hyperoxygenate our blood. And when people come out of that experience, is like they went to another world and came back. And one person said it was like taking drugs without actually any drugs. And that's, breath work and yoga are doing well when that's people's experience.
Yes, it really is like on psychedelics without any psychedelics being there at all. So,
Yes.
yeah.
And then I think it was soon after that we did a little bit of the very specific active imagination that Jung taught, which is working off of pictures. And then we moved into the shamanic drum journeys, which I learned. I've taken multiple classes in Sweden over the years in the Nordic tradition. But you really can come from any tradition. There's even a Christian version that's taught by the Jesuits. And is simply to the beat of a drum, and some simple, starting with memory exercises. And it's really a great way to find energy and insight around some issue that you're facing, or stuff that's coming up in the week, or maybe stuff that you've pushed back, for years, and now it's time for that to come out. And you might meet your spirit animal.
Mhm. Yeah, you never know. With shamanic journeys, there's the almost ground level journeys and then the upper journeys and the lower journeys.
Mm.
And you're kind of like looking at our skill level and you're like, okay, we're gonna start with the typical journeys for now. And sometimes you might find your spirit animal. I'm trying to remember, did I have a spirit animal? Um, hmm.
I think if you did, you would remember, most likely, because I don't emphasize finding your spirit animal. People meet some animal spirit, but that's not necessarily their spirit animal. It's simply for what they need at the moment. And
Yeah.
that's largely what comes up. And it's more about opening the door and going down that proverbial rabbit hole, because it's like the practice is essentially opening up a door or window to the unconscious and allowing the immediate thing that's right there, the safest thing that's right there, to come out and find some symbolic expression, which is what active imagination is about. And we'll start with just working off of a picture, which is the way Jung did it. Although Jung also advertised that people should do it very late at night and have wine, and we're not going to be quite that adventurous. Um, but it's really just traveling to the spirit world, which is the archetypal world within yourself or accessible within yourself, and in a very safe way that's very grounded. And then there's a lot to the practice that can be developed over the years. And there are different traditions. There's Native American tradition, there's Mongolian tradition, there are African and South American traditions. We focus on the European one because that's what I'm trained in. The Nordic Sami tradition. But that is, for me, that's one of the most fun parts of it, because boy, for so many people, it was like a whole adventure, like a movie, basically, that was I mean, not so much like a movie, like a video game, because you have choices, and you might discover magic items, or weird things are going to happen. And I know if you're listening now, you're like, what are you talking about? But this is very much part of the human legacy. And this is when Jung went, for example, when he came to the United States, and he visited and stayed and learned from a Navajo shaman, and really emphasized the power of shamanic practice, as well as yoga practice. I mean, his ideas around the energy in the body, and anima and animus. And so what we're simply doing in this workshop is we're bringing practices that connect us to Jung's concepts, many of which he talked, I would say in many ways, more of his work is about yoga than it is about type. The type was like a one-time book, and like yoga was like this huge like breakthrough for him, in going to India and learning about yoga. And so up to this point, a lot of this is simply connecting with ourselves and others, and hasn't even touched on the group relations stuff yet, which I tend to do towards the end, because it's a lot of fun, and we want to get like all of our resources, all of our ducks present and lined up to really make the most of this transformative group activity, which I was taught while I was in graduate school. And since then have led like several hundred of these small groups, and group relations is just amazing to understand how groups take on a life of their own, and how we say and do things when we're part of a group that we're like, was that really me? And why did that happen? And we see different sides of our type come out, and our shadow as well.
Yeah. We see ourselves more holistically through these practices. So, to bring up the posters again. When you come to this event, you'll get $120 worth of signed books and free lunch, courtesy of Dario Nardi, where we'll have discussions about all topics under the sun. And you can also get your brain scanned with Dario Nardi's EEG brain scanning to learn more about your flavor of personality type. And so there's so many things to do. Yeah, and you're probably wondering why, Joyce, why are you so passionate about this? I'm like, guys, this was a really good event. I really recommend it. And I also personally want to see my subscribers there because I want to meet you guys in person. I appreciate you guys and I want to spend some time with y'all. doing some personal development work, which is my favorite thing ever. Some of the things I love about this event is that my two favorite things are a deep conversation and personal growth. And I feel like at this event, you get both of those things. So please come out, guys. It's very cheap. Like, it's very affordable. So no excuses.
Yeah, yeah, and in fact, the locations also I think will be really convenient for people. So the one in October 9th to 12th is at Golden Drum, which is a sort of a yoga and creative space, and that's just right across the river from Manhattan. Very, very easy to reach. And then in Chicago at the November 6th to 9th is at the Center for Change and Healing, like absolutely beautiful location that is more out in nature and allowing us to sort of connect with that during break times. And there will be a maximum of 14 people at each event. And a big reason why, even though the spaces can hold a little bit more than that, is I want to have personal time with everybody. And that was what was so great when we did the longer version last fall, is that there was time for everybody to share their experiences and to get feedback about how they were doing, or, answer their questions. And I feel that that's, for the cost, is really great. One could easily say, oh yeah, it's 3 days, so $3,000 or whatever, which to me really doesn't make it accessible to the people who need it. And instead, like, there's like a sweet spot between cost and number of people, and to have a cost that's very, very affordable and much lower, just to make that accessible to everyone. And Joyce is going to be there. I'm going to be there. We're also scheduled to have one of my former students, and he was there last October, and he's going to be there as well, familiar with all of these techniques. And of course, we're going to talk about type, because that's, especially in the evenings, is a chance to socialize and to talk type. And so much of this it's not the theory stuff about type that's all detailed. It very much is the practical part. It's like, where are we one-sided in our personality? Where is our shadow side? And type is a useful tool. And these are also all tools, and these are body, mind, and social tools to leverage that and to stay young.
Carl Jung definitely leveraged the body-mind connection, and he emphasized the importance of that in his teachings, which we'll be going over in this retreat. So, is there anything else you'd like to add, Dario?
I think that pretty much covers it. I mean, there are always those logistical questions, and I've run conferences and workshops before, so I'm very mindful when you sign up for, like, what are your dietary requirements? I remember even once when I was organizing a space that had like built-in at a lodge, where it had sleeping and all of that right there. We're not going to have that here, but even ask people, what kind of pillows do you need? Do you need hypoallergenic pillows? So I do think of those kinds of things, and it's going to be like 9 in the morning to 5:30 in the evening. We have a lunch break. We're going to be doing a lot, but it's not it's not a military march either. So it really is a time for people to soak up and all of the stuff that we'll be doing and experiencing it. And it's amazing how much can happen in a 20-minute breath work or in a 10-minute human connection practice. And the discussion and the insights and all of that can come out of that would be really great. So I'm looking forward to doing this again. I'm very excited about it. Have been doing some of these, like the group relations, for like a couple of decades, and it's just really great to be diving in this again. And especially with the crowd like Joyce's, that is like a type knowledgeable and maybe Jung knowledgeable, and is interested in, like, not just themselves but other people, and how we can go further, and really discover They say in psychotherapy, like, there are several, like, basic pillars, and one of the ideals and is like you get of going to a session, and I believe that's active imagination is a form of like self psychotherapy or self coaching, is that we discover new kinds of outcomes that we're like, oh, I didn't even realize I could do this in my life, or I didn't realize that this was something I had in myself. And or it maybe you did, but it's easier than you thought it would be. So it's then you can jump on that. So it's discovering new kinds of outcomes, I feel, is and then having the practices that even if there's only one of the five that's like completely just like, yes, this is it, like, wow, that's an amazing tool that you have going forward every day or every week, whatever it is. So please, ask us any questions you have about it. We're mindful of the logistical things, like, don't worry, you're going to get a lunch that fits your dietary needs. And they're all convenient locations. So we're very excited to make this happen.
Yeah, and if you want to find more details, check out the links down below. I'll have everything there. And this is a great opportunity to make lifelong friends. So if you want to find a community, if you want to find people who you really jive with, I recommend these events. So,
Mm,
yeah.
cool. See
All
you
right.
there.
See you guys there.